Hello, welcome to Gigi Talks. I will be talking about my career. I feel like I didn't get a chance to talk about it much in my first episode, and to be fair, it was my very first episode, and I'm trying to get the hang of things and trying to figure out when to upload videos and when to record videos because, as I said in my first video or podcast. it I am an attorney, so it is a little bit difficult to find time and to sit down and record and plan what exactly I am going to talk about. So hopefully today's episode is interesting or relatable. I think it will be. It'll be about, of course, my career, but I think more so about imposter syndrome. And I think everybody who has worked really hard, anybody really in any capacity, would look at themselves and see that that they've felt something like this. Like it would be for someone who may be a little bit hard on themselves. And I think that has to do with the imposter syndrome. So I hope you enjoy today's video or podcast audio video. So I think I'll start with defining imposter syndrome, and I am Googling this so that I can provide a very solid definition of it. And thanks to Google AI, it says here that syndrome is a psychological pattern where individuals doubt their accomplishments and have a persistent fear of being exposed as a fraud despite evidence of their competence. It's not a mental illness, but a common experience of self-doubt and feeling like an imposter, especially among high achievers. So that is the definition for imposter syndrome as Google AI suggests. And it sounds accurate. I mean, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not someone who is experienced in this type of thing, but I can say that at the bare minimum, I would identify as someone who deals with imposter syndrome. So, anyway, we know what that means already. And as far as it relates to my career, I do feel like this imposter syndrome is with me most days, if not every day. And I don't think that I'm the only one. I've had conversations with other attorneys, particularly on not so much of the younger side. I mean, yes, younger attorneys, but also people who are not the older attorneys, like the highly experienced ones, but the ones that are sort of like in the middle. I've I've seen some of them sort of deal with something like that, and in addition to other issues going on in their lives. But as it relates to imposter syndrome, at least with me, as I said, I feel that most days, if not all days. And how it shows up is that I am not confident when I go into the courtroom and start talking, or sometimes I stumble upon my words, I should say. And sometimes I tend to sort of forget a few things, so I have to write things down because I will forget. And I always say this to people. I'm like, I have to write things down because I can't, like, I will forget. So, that helps a lot, but I can go in as prepared as I can be, but there is that voice in the back of my head saying that I'm not as good as the other attorneys in the courtroom. I'm my arguments are not good, and I mean, part of the arguments are based on what the client wants. And so I can only go as far as it. And sometimes it feels like I'm a bit stuck. And when the imposter comes out, I'm like, well, this is such a terrible argument to make. And it's not good. And now look at me, it's embarrassing that I said that. So in front of everybody. So it happens a lot, and I feel that for sure. I don't feel that so much when I'm talking to the clients. I feel like that's the part that I'm good with. But with when I'm talking to other attorneys, or if I'm talking in the courtroom in front of a judge, it is very, very different. I feel the imposter so hard, and I don't like it, obviously. Who would like that, right? I don't think anybody will. But this is something that I'm sure a lot of people deal with and feel it. And it is hard to sort of go around it and not think about things like that. And I truly don't know how you can overcome that. It I keep hearing, with experience, you're going to get there, like you're going to be confident, or you can try to be assertive and practice and practice, which I believe that with practice, you can get better, and experience, you can get better, because these other attorneys wouldn't be where they are if they didn't have that experience or practice, right? So I have hope, at least in that, as the years go by and I continue to do this type of work, that I would be like one of those attorneys who are experienced, and maybe they don't feel the imposters as much as I do right now in this moment, at this time of my life, right? So it is something that I will work on, of course, and I hope that everybody else who, if you're still listening to this podcast, audio, video, whatever, that you can also work on things, and that you see yourself, hopefully, at the end of it, where this constant feeling of not being good enough goes away. And that's the hope, right? But I also think part of that imposter mentality is that there are people who say things to you that that bring you down. It's how people say things, and what they say, and their intent in saying things, that really hurt somebody. And as I said in my first episode, if you haven't watched it, I'll say it again. A professor from my law school told me to basically take a year off or reconsider being in law school, and that I did. And he also said that I didn't know what I was doing. So that definitely sticks with you. Sorry, sticks with you, and I still think about it to this day, and it's been 5 years, 6 years maybe, since that happened. And it clearly does not go away. But I think that that moment needed to happen, because it just made me work harder and really look at things. And now I find myself in a good position where I actually am an attorney now. I took the bar exam and passed it on my second try, but it still happened. So sucks to be him for thinking that I didn't know what I was doing, but clearly I did, because I'm here now. So it really doesn't matter. But really, in just any career, doesn't matter what other people say. It is really how you take that and move on, move forward with it. So, that even though that'll play a part in the imposter syndrome thing, you can always move on and use it to your advantage to sort of um, look at the things that you have accomplished and keep going. But anyway, I wanted to just talk a little bit about the imposter syndrome and sort of like, how's it affected me, and I deal with that at work a lot, and it can feel quite embarrassing when you feel that way, because then you're like, well, I cannot contribute to this conversation because I don't know what I'm talking about, or I don't know what is going on. And if I say something, then it's not going to be as good as if somebody else says something else about it. So it comes out in that way, and in many other ways, I'm sure. So, if you've dealt with imposter syndrome, please write it below. I would like to see or read some how the imposter syndrome has affected you, or how you see it in your life, career, and that sort of thing. So yeah, that would be a nice conversation. I've talked to my best friend about that before, and she also deals with that. So in her career, she deals with that herself, and I think she is brilliant. And I she can do no wrong in my eyes. I think she is great in her career, her profession, and seeing it happen to somebody else also affects me in a way, because I'm thinking, well, she is really good enough. She can do this. She's clearly great at what she's doing. But then I'm looking at how they're taking it and how it is affecting them, and then I'm thinking like, well, they tell me the same thing about myself, that I am good enough, that I can do this and such and such. But I don't believe it. So I don't know, it's a whole cycle and nonstop mentality, and it's not great, obviously, but what can you do? It is a part of life, for a lot of people. And if you're one of those people that don't deal with imposter syndrome, then you are a very lucky person. And I wish that I didn't have to deal with the imposter syndrome. I wish I was like you. That would certainly make my life easier. But it's fine. It is what it is, right? So I again thought that talking about this would be great, for me to sort of recognize that this is what's happening, and this is a reason why I feel the way I feel when I'm at work and doing different things, whether it be in the courtroom or outside the courtroom with other people. It makes sense. So that's where I am at, sort of. But anyway, I feel like my first episode and this episode, I've talked sort of negatively about my career as an attorney. And I will say it's not all that bad. And I maybe shouldn't talk like this about my profession, but I feel like I'm not the only one who would agree that the legal profession is not great. You know, it has a great pay, I think, and benefits, and depending where you are, whether if it's a private firm, a big law firm, or a nonprofit organization, I feel like you'll find yourself in a good position anyway. And there are good things about it, but there's also a lot of bad things attached to it. And I am not necessarily a fan of my profession, and maybe I should have thought about joining this profession before I went to decided to go to law school and do all that process and continue on with it till now. But I feel like I would not have done anything differently if I was given the choice. I feel like I maybe what I would have done differently would be in the way that I approach certain things during law school and in my career, but I wouldn't change my career path, I guess. Do I still want to maybe have a different career path at this point? Probably. I feel like I'm not the only one. I feel like I mean, I would like to do something else, but right now this career is fine. And being an attorney, a litigator, or being in court every day is not the only avenue as an attorney. I can do some other things, and maybe I'll find something else that interests me better than what I'm doing. But for now, this is fine. Like I'm not doing great myself, but I feel like I'm doing just fine. And yes, the negatives may kind of outweigh the positives, but that's just how I'm feeling right now because of my lack of experience or knowledge in the particular area of law as I'm still learning, and just my confidence really. So that's how I feel right now, but I will say there are the positives, when you get a good result or when you are acknowledged for your accomplishments, like that sort of thing. And if you achieved something good, then you feel good for the rest of the day. But I'm not gonna lie, there are days when it's pretty bad because of different things that could happen, not necessarily in the courtroom, but just what some of our clients are going through. And I feel like that is what a lot of attorneys, if they deal uh, with clients in the community, or people who are not rich people, so the underserved people. Whenever something bad happens, then you feel it, and it sort of throws you off for the rest of the day and weekend, and you just can't stop thinking about it. So there are things, right? And it really, I think, also depends on how you take it. And again, this is not to hopefully not to bash my profession, but really depends how you take it. And the way this is the way I'm seeing it at this point in time due to many circumstances surrounding my life. So, or surrounding my career life, right? So, anyway, that is my talk about imposter syndrome and the career I chose to pursue and be a part of. So, I hope maybe this helps somebody. If there's anything in particular that you would like to know about the legal profession, I will do my best to answer. If you leave a comment, I can answer in the comments, or I can do another video. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and please share your experiences in your career with imposter syndrome if you are comfortable, of course, and what positives and negatives that you find in your career. I think that would be great because it would help other people in making a decision about what they would like to do. But again, please don't take this as advice to not go to law school or to go to law school. And that'll be a separate conversation I'll have, or a separate video that I will put up, because that's also been another issue that I sort of dealt with or heard about. So, anyway, Thanks for listening to Gigi Talks, and I'm not sure exactly when I'll post next, but thank you for being here if you've stuck around this far, and I hope you have a great, wonderful rest of your day. Thank you. Bye bye.